Hello, geometry. So this is 3.5, graphing and writing equations review. Okay, so we're going to get into it a little bit more next week when we start looking at parallel and perpendicular lines, which is all of chapter 3. But for now, I just wanted us to kind of remind ourselves that we know how to do this. It's just been a long time. So we have 4 different kinds of slopes, right? We have lines that go up and to the right. Those are positive slopes. It's uphill. We have slopes that go down and to the right. So that's negative. That's downhill. We have flat ones that are horizontal. Those are equations that have slopes of 0. So it is okay to have a 0 in the numerator. That is okay. That's just 0. If you have nothing and you give it to 5 people, how much do each of them have? Nothing. Vertical lines, however, have undefined slopes, right? I can't walk a vertical line. I can walk a horizontal. I cannot walk a vertical. I'd have to climb. That's different from walking. So undefineds have NO. It's not okay for the 0 to be in the denominator. So we're going to see that in just a sec when we review our slopes a little bit. If we have a graph, we want to use that phrase rise over run. Rise over run. And remember, if we have a negative number, that's going to mean to go down. Or to the left, depending. I like to stick it in my numerator just because it makes it easier for my brain, and we'll see that in a sec. And then if we have coordinates, we're going to use the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. It's really important when we do the coordinates. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Oh, it's really important when we do the coordinates that we keep the coordinates on top of each other. So I have kind of boxed here y2 and x2, right? Those should come from the same coordinate. And again, we'll see that in a second. So let's take a look at some of our slopes here. I've already highlighted them, so we can see from A to B, I am rising by 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is my rise. And I am going up, so that's a positive 4. And then I am running to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I am running to the right 5, and that's again a positive. So let's take a look at B right here. We are moving down 1, 2, 3. Down is a negative, so it's a negative 3. And then we are going to the right. Right is still positive. So we are going to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can reduce that down actually to a negative 1/2. 4/5 I couldn't reduce. All right, for our next one down here, this is a vertical line, right? I am going down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or I could say I'm going up 6. It doesn't matter. In either case, I am running 0, and that would be undefined, right? You can see I didn't move sideways at all, so it's undefined. So then the last one down here, I started writing with my pink on accident, so this is really just the yellow. It's just a run, right? There is no rising, and we are running by 3 to the right. So this would have a 0 slope. So now let's actually calculate some slopes on this side. So we're going to start up here. I always like to start with my first point. That's just how I do it. So this would be 5 minus negative 1 over negative 2 minus 6. And again, you can see that this right here is one coordinate, right? 5 and negative 2 go together. Negative 1 and 6 go together. So for this one, we would get a positive 6 over a negative 8. I can reduce that down to a negative 3/4. For this next one, we have negative 3 minus 7 over negative 11 minus negative 6. This is going to turn into a positive. So our denominator is going to be negative 11 plus 6. So that would be negative 5. And then we've got negative 3 minus 7. So it's going to be negative 10. Negative divided by negative is a positive. So we're going to end up with 2 there. Down here, I've already kind of color coordinated them. So we've got negative 4 minus 2 is a negative 6. 9 minus a 9 is a 0. Uh-oh, it's in the denominator. Can't do that. This is undefined. It's undefined, so it's one of those vertical lines. I can't walk it. And this one right here, negative 3 minus a negative 3. So that's really negative 3 plus 3. Excuse me. So that's a 0. And then over negative 7 minus 0, which is negative 7. So that's just going to be 0. So hopefully you feel pretty good about those. Let's take a look at some equation review. Remember, we have 3 different types of equations of lines that we can use. The first one is the most common, which is y equals mx plus b. So that m is the slope like we just saw, and then that b is the y-intercept. And the y-intercept is going to have that 0b coordinate always. So with our first one right here, I've highlighted our rise over our run so we can find our slope pretty easily. We are going up 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's positive 4. And then we are going right 2. So it's a positive 2. I can reduce that down. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And then for our y-intercept, it's wherever the line touches the y-axis. And remember that y-axis is that vertical one, right? So our y-intercept in this case is going to be negative 3. So if I want to write this equation, all I need to do is plug in my slope and my y-intercept for my m and my b. So this would become y equals m, which is 2. Then we have x. And then our b is negative 3. So that's the equation of the line. I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to practice on 2 and 3. The answer key is posted. You are welcome to check your work there. All right. Let's graph this line now. So when we graph, we are going to start with our y-intercept. That's where I always start. So our y-intercept in this case is negative 1. Well, where does y equal negative 1? Right here, right? That's where y equals negative 1. And then our slope says 5 over 4. That means I have to go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then to the right, because it's positive, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So hopefully you can see that I went up 5 and to the right 4. And now I just connect those. As soon as you have 2 points, you have a line. That's true in algebra. It's true in geometry. So there we go. I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to practice with the next 2. I did want to remind you that if you see negative x, it's negative 1x, right? He's a ninja. He's always there. You just don't always see him. And there's actually a plus something on the end of this. It's a plus 0, right? He's a ghost. He's always there, but you don't always see him. So take a minute, practice graphing those. All right, standard form is the next one. If we want to graph standard form, though, the easiest thing, in my opinion, is to just convert it into a y equals. So if we just solve for y, then we can find our slope and our y-intercept, and we're pretty good to go. So let's start by subtracting 2x on both sides. So we end up with negative 4y. Be careful, right? Don't forget the toddler at the grocery store. And we've got negative 2x plus 28. I'm going to rewrite that so it's easier. And now I need to divide everything by negative 4. So we end up with a y. Negative 2 divided by negative 4 is positive 1/2 x. And then 28 divided by negative 4 is a negative 7. So I know my slope is 1/2. And I know my y-intercept is negative 7. So that tells me how to graph. So if I take a look at my next page here, we have solving for y here, right? So we subtract 3x on both sides, then we divide everything by 5. I end up with a slope of negative 3/5 x plus 1. So I'm going to start at where y is positive 1, which is right here. And then I need to go down 3 and to the right 5. And then I just connect those 2 dots with my line. Use a ruler. Straight lines are best. All right, next one. Talking about vertical and horizontals. So vertical lines have slopes that are undefined. We saw that. But the equations of their lines are written as x equals. All right, they're written as x equals. So in this case, where does the line touch the x-axis? Well, it touches it at 1. So the equation of this line would just be x equals 1. For this line right here, horizontals, we know that those have slopes that are 0, and their equations are going to be y equals some number. So in this case, we would ask, well, where does it touch the y-axis? It touches at 1, 2, 3. So this would be the equation y equals 3. So down here, let's actually write out a couple of these. Okay, let's write out a couple of these. Some of them are a little harder to see, so I'll try and make them bolder. So with this one right here, what kind of a line is it? Horizontal or vertical? It looks like this one, so it's a horizontal, which means it's going to be a y equals some number. Well, where does it touch the y-axis? It touches at, there's 0, -1, -2, -3, -4. All right, that's the equation of that line. What about this one? Well, it's a vertical like this, so it's going to be an x equals. It touches at x equals, well, there's 0, 1, 2. So for this one, is it going to be an x equals or y equals? Well, it's vertical, so it's going to be another x equals. And it touches the x-axis at -1. And then for our last one here, it's a horizontal, so we know it's going to be a y equals, and it touches at 1, 2, 3, 4. Y equals 4. So now we have to graph the lines. For this one, we've got y equals -2. Well, where does y equal -2? It equals -2 right here. And remember, because it's just a y equals, we could say that there's a y equals 0x minus 2, right? If you really like to have that slope in there, so your slope is 0, right? You're not going up or down, you're just going sideways. Or you can just look at this and say, okay, that means I'm just drawing a line sideways. But I wanted you to see that there is a 0x in there. We know our slope is 0. For this one, x equals 4. Where does x equal 4? Well, x equals 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right here. And then, because it's an x equals, it has to be vertical. So I'm just going to draw a line like that. So for our next one, y equals 3. Where does y equal 3? 1, 2, 3, right there. And then we draw a line sideways. And then for our last one, where does x equal -3? 1, 2, -3. And then we draw a vertical. All right, the last kind of line that you will sometimes see, and I hope those verticals and horizontals make sense. The last kind of line that you will sometimes see is point slope form. And I think this one is the most commonly used that I see, at least, especially in terms of like the SBA and stuff. It's nice when they give you a point and slope, but sometimes you actually have to find your slope. So I did that one down here where I actually had to plug in my slope, and I got out 1/3. And then I had to plug in one of my points, doesn't matter which one, just one of them, and my slope. And now I actually have to solve this. So it looks exactly like that, right? I've just plugged in my numbers. Remember that the y and the x here, the ones that don't have subscripts, those just stay. Stay like they're stationary little statues. So if I rewrite this, my y minus -7 turns into y plus 7. And then I want to distribute that 1/3. So it's going to become 1/3 x, and then 1/3, so this would be a plus 6. So 1/3 of 6. Well, that would really be 6 times 1/3, so that would be 6/3. So we can actually rewrite that as just 2. So y plus 7 equals 1/3 x plus 2, right? Because 6 divided by 3 is 2. Then I subtract 7 on both sides, and we end up with y equals 1/3 x minus 5. And now we can graph it because we have our y-intercept and we have our slope. I want you to try a couple more on this page. Again, this was just really good review, reminding you know how to do this. Skills practice should be posted to Big Ideas. I want to say it's like 8 questions. Pretty sure.